The crowd held its breath as Tundra, the aging polar bear, suddenly rose from her stillness, moving with purpose toward the glass. She nudged it softly, a silent, tender gesture that shocked everyone. But it wasn't just affection. Something was wrong, and Emily realized it too late. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. On that particular morning, the sun had barely begun to rise, casting soft light over the zoo's grounds. The visitors hadn't arrived yet, and there was a serene stillness in the air, broken only by the distant rustling of trees. Dr. Emily Parker made her usual trek through the quiet zoo to the polar bear enclosure. As she approached, she could see Tundra pacing slowly back and forth in her habitat, her once white fur now tinged with hints of gray, reflecting the years of her captivity. Emily's heart ached as she observed the bear's deliberate, slow movements, the weight of age pressing on her massive frame. She knew how much it cost Tundra to move around now, the arthritis in her joints limiting her once fluid grace. It made Emily's visits all the more important. Each time, she brought Tundra food, medical care, and most importantly, her unwavering presence. Today, however, Emily had something extra in her voice. There had been a shift in the air around her, a slight change that tugged at her heart. Tundra was moving slower than usual, almost listlessly, as if the years were finally catching up with her, bringing an aching weight too much to bear. Emily felt an urgency she hadn't before, a silent plea to reach Tundra in some way, any way, to remind her that she wasn't truly alone. With a deep breath, she stepped closer to the enclosure, standing just at the edge of the glass. "Tundra," she whispered softly, her voice carrying the familiarity that had been built over the years. "It's me, Emily. Are you feeling okay today?" There was no response at first. Tundra paused, her tired eyes flicking over to the source of the voice. Emily could feel her heart race as she stood perfectly still, watching for any sign, any flicker of recognition. It had happened countless times before. Tundra would lift her head slightly, perhaps acknowledging her presence with a brief glance. But today, there was something different. The bear's eyes lingered longer on Emily, her expression almost searching. Then, something miraculous occurred. Tundra shuffled her way toward the glass, her gait stiff but determined, and as she reached the front of the enclosure, she stood still, her massive body looming just inches away from Emily. For a brief moment, time seemed to freeze between them. The zoo, the glass, the world outside, all of it faded into the background. And then, with a gentle but unmistakable motion, Tundra reached out, resting her large, shaggy head against the glass, mere inches from Emily's face. It was a gesture that shocked everyone who witnessed it. For all her years in captivity, Tundra had never before made such a deliberate move toward another human. Her nuzzle was tender, as though seeking the comfort that only Emily's presence could provide. Emily's breath caught in her throat, and her heart clenched. She reached out a trembling hand to the glass, pressing it against the bear's massive head, mirroring the gesture. Her eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming surge of love and connection she felt in that moment. It was as if Tundra, in her silent, ancient way, was telling her that she was no longer alone, that this bond they shared, this quiet understanding, was something more than just the routine of care. It was a recognition, a shared acknowledgement of the years they had spent together. And as the visitors began to trickle in, unaware of the moment unfolding just beyond the glass, Emily stood there, heart full, watching Tundra nuzzle her once more. It was a moment of pure, unspoken trust, a testament to the power of empathy and patience. There, in that quiet, sacred space, the line between human and animal blurred into something far more profound than either of them could have imagined. The air in the zoo had shifted that afternoon. What began as an ordinary day, filled with the mundane sounds of children's laughter and parents' idle chatter, had turned into something altogether extraordinary. The visitors, previously distracted by the usual wonders of the zoo, now stood frozen, their attention drawn to the polar bear enclosure. Their eyes widened as Tundra, the stoic and aged creature who had become little more than a background figure over the years, slowly and deliberately moved toward the glass. Dr. Emily Parker's voice had been soft, nearly drowned by the ambient noise of the zoo. She was discussing routine matters with a colleague, a faint echo of her usual presence in Tundra's world. But today, the words she spoke, mundane as they were, seemed to reverberate within the very walls of the enclosure. There was something about the rhythm of her voice, the cadence of her speech, that had reached the depths of the bear's awareness. The connection between them, a quiet and unspoken bond forged over years of care and understanding, was suddenly more palpable than ever before. The crowd, unaware of the intricacies of the relationship between Emily and Tundra, could only watch as the bear's once languid movements turned purposeful. Tundra's head lifted, her alert eyes scanning the distance, as though something familiar had pierced through the haze of human age. Her ears twitched, her body stiffened, and for the first time in years she moved with intention. Slowly but with unwavering resolve, she made her way toward the glass. And then the silence broke. With the gentleness of a moment long overdue, Tundra pressed her broad snout against the glass, tapping it softly with a delicate but undeniable nudge. The visitors gasped, collectively holding their breath as they witnessed the unexpected, something beyond the ordinary. The polar bear, known for her quiet existence and years of seclusion, had made a gesture of connection. Emily's heart leapt, her pulse quickening as she processed the moment. She had seen Tundra in every possible way over the years, reluctant, aloof, and even distant, but never like this. Never had the bear so intentionally reached out. The weight of the moment was impossible to ignore. It was as if the very fabric of their years together had coalesced into this one profound act. "Tundra," Emily whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of awe and disbelief. The words were simple, yet they carried the depth of years of shared experiences. The crowd, now fully aware of the profound exchange unfolding before them, held their breath. The connection was undeniable. It was not a mere physical gesture, nor a fluke of timing. The nuzzle against the glass was more than just a response to Emily's voice. It was a recognition of something much deeper. The bear had responded not just to the sound, but to the familiarity, to the trust and care that had been cultivated over time. Yet the question lingered in the air, unanswered. Why now? What had sparked this reaction after so many years of calm indifference? As Emily stepped closer, her own heart pounding with a mixture of wonder and confusion, she couldn't help but wonder what had changed in Tundra's mind. Could the bear be feeling something new? Or had the years of gentle care finally awakened a connection that had always been there, dormant until this moment? Emily's thoughts swirled, but she knew one thing for certain. Whatever had caused this shift, it was a revelation. A profound, deeply emotional revelation that would forever alter the course of their relationship. And as the crowd murmured in hushed tones, still processing the spectacle before them, Emily remained by the glass, her hand trembling as she placed it against the cold surface where Tundra's snout rested. Time seemed to stretch between them, and the ordinary zoo day faded into insignificance. The bond they shared, once quiet and unassuming, had just become something far more powerful. The minutes stretched like hours as Emily stood frozen, her breath catching in her throat, her mind racing to process what had just happened. The zoo, once a backdrop to routine observations and quiet care, now seemed alien, distant, as if time itself had momentarily suspended in the wake of Tundra's gesture. The bear's nuzzle against the glass, that seemingly simple motion, reverberated through the air like a silent cry for help, an urgent plea that went far beyond the ordinary exchange between caretaker and animal. Tundra's body had aged over the years, the signs of her decline creeping in slowly but surely. The zoo, in all its efforts to provide for her, had seen only the surface, her occasional lethargy, her stiff joints, the slowing of her once graceful movements. But now, as Emily's heart thudded in her chest, a bitter realization began to settle. Tundra had been suffering, quietly, all this time. The bear's recognition of Emily's voice wasn't just a sign of affection or companionship. It was a desperate acknowledgement of pain, a silent cry from a body that had begun to fail her. It wasn't just a greeting. It was a signal that Tundra's time was drawing near, that the years of neglect and silent suffering had culminated in a moment of reckoning. As Emily's eyes traced the bear's slow, deliberate movements, the weight of this truth hit her like a physical blow. The nuzzle against the glass was more than just a gesture of familiarity. It was an admission that something deeper was wrong. The signs had been there, hidden beneath the surface, disguised by the bear's natural stoicism and the subtle ways she had learned to cope with her condition. But now Emily could see it, the heavy toll that age had taken, the weariness in Tundra's eyes that hadn't been there before. The crowd, still silent in awe at the extraordinary moment, slowly began to grasp the gravity of the situation. What had started as an unexpected display of affection now felt like a turning point, a signal that something urgent needed to be done. Emily wasted no time. Her voice, usually calm and steady, trembled as she spoke to the staff, her orders sharp but her mind racing with the weight of her realization. We need to get her to the medical area, now. The visitors, who had once been captivated by the bear's unexpected gesture, now watched in somber silence as the staff moved into action. The festive atmosphere of the zoo had evaporated, replaced by an air of quiet understanding that something was amiss. Something had shifted irreversibly in the space between human and animal. Emily moved with purpose, her every step calculated, yet her mind was clouded with uncertainty. How had they missed this? How had they let it get this far? The guilt gnawed at her, but she couldn't dwell on it. She had a responsibility to Tundra now, to give the bear comfort in the face of whatever lay ahead. As they led Tundra to the more secluded medical area, Emily's hands moved with careful precision, checking her over with a tenderness that bordered on reverence. The relief came when she discovered the source of the bear's pain, a chronic inflammation in her joints, a complication of her age that had worsened without detection. Though it wouldn't cure the inevitable progression of time, Emily found a treatment that would ease Tundra's suffering. The knowledge that she could offer her beloved companion some reprieve, however small, brought a wave of relief, though it was tempered by the underlying sorrow of knowing that this would never fully undo the years of quiet anguish. As the day came to a close and the visitors slowly filed out, their faces etched with confusion and contemplation, the image of Tundra's nuzzle remained in their minds. It was an indelible moment, a reminder that the line between humans and animals was never as clear-cut as society liked to believe. The bond that had formed between Emily and Tundra was not one of simple caretaking. It was a relationship built on years of empathy, mutual respect, and shared understanding. The moment the bear reached out, it was as if the world had become smaller, the walls of the enclosure thinner, and the distinction between species dissolved into something more primal and fundamental. Tundra's act of recognition had transcended the physical world of glass and steel. It had reached into the very heart of the zoo, of Emily's soul. And as the sun set over the quiet grounds, the understanding settled. This moment was not just a call for help, it was a testament to the power of connection. Even in the final years of life, there remained a thread between the wild and the tamed, between the human and the animal, that could not be severed. Tundra had reminded Emily of that, in the most unexpected and poignant of ways.